Hey guys, welcome back to Top 10 Nerd. I'm Ron Mackenzie LaFurgy. Marvel has been around for ages, with the modern incarnation starting in 1961. With decades worth of comics, there are bound to be some that spark controversy. While Marvel has gained an enormous following over the years, it's also received some heat for certain stories, some of which are pretty interesting. Let me know in the comments if your favorite Marvel controversy isn't on this list. Also, this list will be full of spoilers, so be warned that some of the more controversial storylines will be discussed in this video. Now get ready, because here's my list of top 10 controversies around Marvel. Number 10. While this video will be full of negative controversies, this one is the kind of controversy that shows you're doing something right. The cover of Captain America Comics number 1 in 1940 showed Cap punching Hitler right in his stupid face, which is awesome. But you know who didn't think it was awesome? Nazi sympathizers. Apparently this sparked a ton of outrage, with countless anti-Semitic, pro-Nazi letters being sent to the offices. The threat was deemed so credible that there were actually police stationed to protect the headquarters. This is particularly great because this came out a year before the US was even at war with the Nazis, and it acted as a pretty powerful political message. While a lot of the time you do want to avoid controversy, pissing off Nazis is just fine in my books. It should be clarified that this was technically before it became Marvel Comics, but it's just way too good of a controversy to not include in this list. Number 9. In another instance of controversy that isn't particularly worrisome, the reveal that the new Ms. Marvel was a Muslim sparked some controversy among certain groups. Luckily, these are groups that don't exactly have much pull in the comic community, and Marvel doesn't really seem to be too concerned with the thoughts of the anti-Muslim folks. Plus, this reveal was also met with a great deal of praise, increasing the diversity of characters found in the comics. This is a prime example of you can't please everyone. Number 8. Spoilers right off the bat for this one. Captain America's death after Civil War has actually been controversial a few times. When it first appeared in the epilogue to Civil War, as a result of him losing the war, fans were shocked that he could die in such a way and were pretty upset to see him go. However, Bucky was pretty cool as the new Cap, and people started to see the death as a good thing, a cool storyline. Then on the other side, when the Civil War film came out and Cap didn't die, suddenly people were upset that he survived. It makes sense, the death was a pretty huge moment in comic history, and to leave it out may seem disrespectful, but I also understand Marvel not wanting to give Cap up quite yet. Number 7. The death of Peter Parker. Amazing Spider-Man number 700 sparked a whole lot of controversy when it showed the death of Peter Parker. In this story, a dying Dr. Octopus switched bodies with Peter, and when Doc Ock's body dies, so does Peter. Kinda. Doc Ock goes on to take on the mantle of superior Spider-Man, set on being a better hero than Peter ever was. With Spider-Man being the most popular Marvel hero, the death of Peter Parker was outrageous to most fans. That said, the series ended up being really cool, and Peter eventually gets control of his body back, so the controversy made way to widespread approval and acceptance. Number 6. As we saw with Peter Parker, the death of a beloved hero can piss off a lot of fans. So what happens when you kill off a bunch of characters? Well, Marvel learned this when a new creative team took over the Avengers and began Avengers Disassembled. This story killed off a bunch of Avengers and saw the breakup of the team. With the incredible popularity of the team, fans were understandably upset. Many weren't fans of tearing everything down to build it back up, but rebuild Marvel did and created the new Avengers. With the help of new additions like Spider-Man and Wolverine, the new Avengers became a Marvel powerhouse, proving that change isn't always a bad thing. Number 5. Diversity, good or bad. In recent years, Marvel has made great steps in increasing the diversity of their heroes. This has been met with criticism, with some people complaining that the diversity seems to have been inserted just to please certain groups. This attitude may have influenced the sales of certain comics, like the Mighty Thor. However, Marvel sparked controversy from another group when this diversity was used to explain the low sales. Marvel's senior vice president of print, sales, and marketing, David Gabriel, has been blasted for saying that the sales are low because, quote, people don't want more diversity. End quote. Critics view this as him using the gender or race of the heroes as a scapegoat for low sales, while blaming writers for low sales of comics involving white males. I can't get too much into this here, but it's definitely worth looking into. It's important to note that Gabriel has since clarified that statement by saying that the heroes he mentioned, like Miles Morales and the Mighty Thor, aren't going anywhere, so don't worry about that. Number 4. Marvel had struggled for a number of years with keeping Spider-Man seeming young. As Peter Parker grew up and eventually married Mary Jane, writers were finding that he just seemed too old for the character. They tried remedying this in a number of ways, like introducing the Bachelor Ben Reilly as Spider-Man, having Mary Jane leave to pursue an acting career, and even killing MJ. But nothing seemed to work. They finally landed on spoilers, having Aunt May get shot by a bullet meant for Peter, leading him to make a deal with Mephisto. Peter traded his love with Mary Jane for Aunt May's life, and apparently Mephisto is quite the romantic because he accepted. I know that's not actually why, it's a joke. This decision has been quite controversial, and even almost a decade later, people are still annoyed that Spidey would essentially make a deal with the devil. Number 3. The abused Ms. Marvel. This is a pretty messed up story. Now I'll give you the short version first. Ms. Marvel has a child who ends up being the father of himself. Sounds messed up, right? Well, when I explain it, it somehow gets even worse. Marcus, the son of the villain Immortus, fell in love with Ms. Marvel and lured her to his dimension. With the help of machines that made her more susceptible, then impregnated her with him so that he could be in her dimension. So he basically roofied her, then used her as a surrogate slash taxi to get him to her universe. Then when he has to go back to his dimension, she goes with him, which is apparently fine with the Avengers. This was super controversial. First, as I said, she was kind of brainwashed into liking him. But a lot of the outcry was also because the Avengers shouldn't have let her leave with the guy who brainwashed her. The seeming lack of consent rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and understandably so. It really parallels a lot of abuse stories where victims feel the need to stay with their abusers, and the comic seems to be supporting the decision to stay. Number 2. Here's one that got me all kinds of riled up. Those of you who've been keeping on top of Captain America news will know exactly what I'm talking about. With Steve Rogers' long-awaited return to the role of Captain America, it was revealed that he was actually a secret HYDRA agent. What? Yep. This revelation set most fans into hysterics. To see the all-American Cap celebrating the evil Hydra is revolting. When it was first announced, I gotta admit I was pretty pissed off. But it has since been explained in more detail, and it's actually a pretty interesting story. When the cosmic cube entity Kobik tries to save Steve Rogers by reverting him to his perfect self, Kobik's own belief that Hydra was perfection causes Steve's entire history to be altered, making him an agent of Hydra who fought for the Axis in World War II. Now that it's been explained more fully, I've actually changed my opinion on this decision. I actually think it's pretty cool. Plus, there's no way Cap won't be returning to his normal self eventually, probably with the help of Kobik. That said, the controversy around this subject is still pretty huge. Number 1. X-Men Gold. Oh boy, this one's a doozy. And super recent. Following the release of X-Men Gold number 1, there has been a huge outcry regarding certain hidden political messages in the panels of the comic, put there by illustrators Ardian Sayaf. These are in reference to a situation in Indonesia where certain groups are speaking against a non-Muslim governor, quoting a Quranic verse that they claim states that non-Muslims should not be taken as allies. This controversy has been raging in Indonesia for some time, but it has been gaining attention after the release of this comic. In it, the not-so-hidden messages are as follows. You see Colossus wearing a shirt that says QS 551, which is the verse of the Quran often quoted. Then we see Kitty standing between two images, one saying 212, referring to December 2nd, a day of protest against the non-Muslim governor, and on her left is a jewelry shop that seems to call attention to the Jew part. Pardon the French, but to quote South Park,
dude, this is pretty up right here.
The illustrator has been thoroughly disciplined, stating on Twitter that his career is over, and I gotta say, good. You're welcome to express yourself however you want in your personal life, but the moment you start sticking your hate into comic books, you gotta go. That's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I sure enjoyed making it. If you like what we're doing, smack that like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Make sure to let us know what you think about these controversial stories, and keep the video suggestions coming. Until next time, I'm Ron McKenzie LaFergie with Top 10 Nerd. Later, nerds.